Wait, just for a second. If you consider yourself intelligent, I have an uncomfortable question for you. How do you actually know you're smart? No, I'm not talking about your IQ score. You could have a high IQ, an incredible memory, and have been the smartest person in your class, and still not be as intelligent as you think you are. Why? Because the real test of intelligence isn't a test where someone gives you a question and four possible answers. The real test begins when you're faced with a problem you've never been taught how to solve. No formula, no instructions, no one telling you where to start. Just you and a problem you've never seen before. And that's where some people suddenly stand out. They notice something everyone else missed. They ask the question nobody thought to ask, and most importantly, they keep learning even when they're smart enough to admit they don't know. For decades, researchers have been studying behaviors like these, trying to, trying to understand what actually separates highly intelligent people from everyone else. And they discovered one habit, one behavior that may be one of the most revealing signs of intelligence. And here's the crazy part. You might already do it every single day. You just may have never realized what it says about your brain. Today, we're breaking down 6 signs of intelligence. And if you recognize most of them in yourself, maybe the question isn't, am I smart? Maybe the real question is, how smart could I become if I actually learned how to use my mind? Sign 1. It starts with the moment most people try hardest to avoid. The moment of saying, I don't know. Psychologists call this intellectual humility, and studies consistently link it to higher, not lower, cognitive ability. The smartest people in a room are often the quickest to admit its limits. But admitting you don't know something is only useful if it leads somewhere. And that's exactly where sign 2 begins. Sign 2. They ask questions to actually understand, not to sound smart. There's a real difference, and most people never notice it in themselves. Research on curiosity-driven learning shows something interesting. People who ask questions purely to satisfy their own understanding retain information far longer than people asking to impress someone else. But noticing a good question is one thing. Noticing the pattern behind 10 different questions, that's a different skill entirely. Which brings us to sign 3. Sign 3, they connect ideas from completely unrelated fields. A lesson from cooking that somehow applies to managing people. A concept from music that explains a math problem. This is called cross-domain thinking, and it's one of the strongest predictors researchers have found for what's often called real-world intelligence, the kind that doesn't show up on a test. But connecting ideas takes patience, and that patience shows up somewhere else too. In how someone handles a decision that doesn't offer an immediate reward. Sign 4, they think in systems, not just moments. They can look at a small decision today and clearly see its shape 3 steps down the road. This traces back to some of the earliest research on delayed gratification, the well-known studies where the ability to wait for a better outcome later predicted success across almost every area of life measured decades afterward. But thinking ahead only works if you're also willing to change direction when new information shows up. And that's where most people, even smart ones, quietly get stuck. Sign 5. They change their mind when the evidence changes, even publicly, even after strongly believing the opposite the day before. Most people treat changing their mind as a loss, like admitting they were wrong the first time. But research on cognitive flexibility shows the opposite. It's one of the clearest markers of a highly adaptive mind. There's one more sign left, and it might be the most important one because it's not really about what they think, it's about how closely they watch their own thinking happen. Sign 6. They think about their own thinking. Before answering, they notice which parts of their reasoning they actually trust and which parts are just a guess dressed up as confidence. This is called metacognition, and it's considered by many researchers to be the closest thing science has found to a single unifying trait behind intelligent behavior. So look back at all 6. Admitting what you don't know. Asking questions to understand, not impress. Connecting ideas across completely different fields. Thinking ahead instead of settling for what's easiest right now. Changing your mind when the evidence changes. And quietly watching your own thoughts closely enough to know which ones to trust. None of these require a test score. None of them require being the fastest person in the room. They just require paying attention to how you already think. So if you recognize 3, 4, 5 of these in yourself, that's not a coincidence. That's your mind already doing the thing most people never learn to notice. The real question was never whether you're smart enough. It's whether you've been paying attention to the parts of your mind that already are. So, how smart could you become if you actually learned how to use your mind? That's the real system nobody teaches you. And now, you know exactly how to use it. See you in the next one. See you in the next